As you head into a more balanced market in many parts of the country, this may be a huge opportunity for you to buy a house with no money out of pocket. And I'm going to tell you how in this video. I am Tom Santella, the go-to realtor in Brooklyn and Long Island, New York, keeping you up to date on everything real estate, providing expert tips along the way. Today, I'm going to tell you how you can make your down payment and closing costs covered to buy your house with no money out of pocket. Later in the video, I will talk about mistakes many first-time home buyers make that cost them thousands of dollars at closing. So be sure to stick around so you don't do the same. First, let's talk about the down payment. You can avoid paying a down payment in a variety of ways, and I'm going to tell you 4. Number 1, if you are a veteran, there are VA loans that are 100% financing, meaning there's no down payment needed. So if you're a veteran, you need to see if you qualified for the VA loan. Number 2 is a USDA loan, which also is 100% financing with no down payment. And 97% of the land in America qualifies for the USDA loan. Now this might not be so helpful in Brooklyn and Queens, but out on Long Island this most definitely can be. Number 3, they have several 100% financing mortgage programs or mortgage loans that you can look into. But the interest rate is typically higher because of this complete financing. However, they also have some 100% financing with no PMI. And if you're not putting a down payment, you'll probably have to pay mortgage insurance. So this is a huge opportunity for people to go in with 100% financing and no PMI. But keep an eye out for that higher interest rate and make sure you're earning enough to cover those monthly payments and still have some left over for your living expenses. Lenders usually lend only up to 38% debt to income, so that's a general guideline to where your monthly payment should be relative to your income level. A 4th way to avoid down payments is by using the down payment assistance programs, which there are several of to choose from, especially for first-time home buyers. And if you're not, you can still get down payment assistance. For example, the Home First Down Payment Assistance Program provides qualified home buyers with up to $100,000 towards their down payment or closing costs on a 1 to 4 family home, condominium, or a co-op in one of the 5 boroughs of New York City. I would 100% look into this when looking to buy a property in Brooklyn or anywhere else in New York City, because a $100K down payment is a very significant amount and is more than enough to cover the down payment on many homes across the 5 boroughs. Now that we have covered the down payment, we will now cover closing costs. But before we do, at the end of this video, I will share a bonus strategy that works to pay for both down payments and closing costs. One way to get your closing costs paid is to allow the seller to pay your closing costs. You have to ask your lender how much you can ask the seller for and how much the seller is actually able to contribute to your closing costs. And this is usually dependent on the loan you are utilizing. Now for USDA and FHA loans, it is usually around 6%. With VA loans being a little bit higher and conventional sometimes being a little less. But you want to ask upfront during the pre-approval process with your lender, how much can the seller contribute to your closing costs, so you are prepared to negotiate this when you go and make an offer. Number 2 is most down payment assistance programs will actually help you with the closing costs as well. So they're offering you a certain amount of money towards the purchase of your home. Usually the majority of it goes towards the down payment because it is a down payment assistance program. But if there's extra money left over, you're allowed to use that money towards your closing costs. So it could be a combination of your down payment assistance program as well as your ability to let the seller pay some of your closing costs. Now, how will you know if the seller will be willing to pay some of your closing costs? And it's because you'll be putting it in your offer. And there are some key ways to know whether the seller would be willing to do this or not. Number 1, if they have no offers, the seller is more willing to negotiate with you and pay your closing costs to make sure their home sells. You should watch my most recent video, which explains how to best negotiate if the seller has no offers if you find yourself in this situation. Number 2 is they have reduced the price of their home. So initially they were asking for one price, they didn't get much interest and the property's been on the market for a while, so they reduced the list price, and this tells you that they're more inclined to negotiate and pay your closing costs. Number 3, they offer it up front. Sometimes in the offer or the listing, they'll say that they're willing to pay your closing costs. And some sellers will even put an exact amount, like $3,000 or $5,000 towards closing. And this is great if they do that, because if they're willing to pay that much, they're probably willing to pay more if you ask for it. So look into the listing to see if they've already made it known that they're willing to do this. The market you're in will also be a big factor in whether the seller is willing to pay closing costs or not. In a normal market or a buyer's market, sellers are more inclined to pay some of your closing costs. In a seller's market, they are less likely to do this because they usually receive more offers and they have more negotiating power. So always be aware that you or your agent knows what type of market you are in when you're going to buy or sell a property. If their home has been on the market longer than the average days on market, they're also probably more willing to pay your closing costs. Now, one major mistake I don't want you to make is not asking for enough. Let's say your lender tells you that you can use up to $10,000 in closing costs from the seller, and you negotiate with them and agree on $9,000. The lender said you can get up to $10,000, so that extra $1,000 you don't want to go to waste. As we spoke about this before, that money can be reallocated to buying down your interest rate and making your monthly payments less expensive. So you can ask the seller as part of the overall closing costs to include that in the rate buy down. And this could end up saving you more money than if the seller just gave you $1,000 over the long run. Always work diligently with both your agent and your lender to present the best and most cost-effective offer when buying a home. You want to make sure you consider these things ahead of your original offer because it is always more difficult to add them on later in the transaction. Now, for a strategy that can help pay both your down payment and your closing costs, this is called seller financing. And seller financing is when the seller agrees to finance an agreed upon amount of the purchase. And this can include the down payment or the closing costs, or both. Over the past few years, with such a high interest rate environment, many real estate investors turn to seller financing to buy properties at a lower cost of debt. So for example, when interest rates were above 8% in late 2023, seller financing allowed investors and even people buying primary residences to negotiate part of their purchase or the entire purchase with the seller at a lower debt rate like 5%. And I'll be doing a video solely about seller financing next week, so be sure to keep an eye on that if you're interested in funding your down payment, closing costs, or entire purchase of a rental or primary residence this way. But yes, seller financing can most definitely fund your down payment and closing costs. So, I hope you found this video helpful and learned ways to buy a home with no money down. My name is Tom Santella, and I am a realtor in Brooklyn and Long Island, New York, helping my clients do this every single day. If you would like my help buying or selling a home, or just need some advice, please feel free to reach out anytime. And if you like this video, like and subscribe. It helps me reach more people like you. Until next time, thank you for watching.